Do the planning board meeting for September 12th, 2024. If everybody had a chance to read over the minutes from, actually, we got to adopt the agenda for tonight, I'm sorry. Do we make any motions to adopt the agenda for this evening?
So move.
Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. All right, carried. And now, take a look, everybody had a chance to read over the minutes from last meeting. Take a minute to look at those, or a second. If anybody have any corrections? I get a motion to approve the minutes?
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Have a second?
Second.
All right. All those in favor of approving the minutes?
Aye.
All those in do not approve, same sign. Motion carried. Move on to public comment. Do we have any public comment, Amy?
No, sir, we do not.
Excellent. All right, I'll hand it over to you, Amy. We'll start off with site plan approval for the Spiller Track site plan.
So in your packet tonight is a site plan approval for the Evolve Companies LLC. If you will remember, this was a conditional district rezoning that occurred earlier this year. So basically, the plan that they submitted with the conditional district was close to being engineered. There were just a few things that still needed to be worked out. So tonight, we're just kind of going through and verifying that they have laid it out the way that they said they were going to lay it out. So the major changes on that site plan that was approved during the conditional district rezoning process, and the packet that you have in your, or the site plan that you have in your packet tonight or on the computer, is the location of the driveways. The NCDOT, the applicant applied through the NCDOT and did a traffic impact analysis. As a part of that impact analysis, they determine where the roadway connections will be. And it was determined that instead of having two roadway entrances on US 17, there would only be one. So instead of having a dedicated commercial and a dedicated residential, you now have a road that kind of splits with access off of those going into the commercial and the residential. So it's still very much kept separate. However, we only have one access off of US 17. From a traffic safety standpoint, the less ingress, egress movements we have, the less chances of accidents, because you're paying attention to one and not the other. So that is the biggest change. In your packet, you will also see the list of conditions that were required for that. So the maximum number of units could only be 264. They maintained that. The maximum building height would not exceed 48 feet. They have maintained that on their site plan, and that will also be verified at time of building permit construction. And then the applicant requested the 25-foot front setback, 10-foot side setbacks, 20-foot side setbacks adjacent to a road, and rear setbacks of 10 feet. That was maintained throughout the site plan. And then the site will provide secondary access to NC 210. There's an easement that runs through there. The applicant has provided documentation that they have legal right to that access easement. The access easement may change slightly to better align with the property lines. However, it will still come out to 210 and be very similar. And then the only thing on the site plan that wasn't shown is the sidewalk adjacent to NC 210. I have spoken with the design engineer, and that will be placed on there prior to release of construction plan. So they are aware that that sidewalk is missing and will be placing it. If you have any questions about the site plan, I'd be happy to answer them.
So it sounds like, Amy, the only thing they've changed really is a recommendation from NC DOT to make that a one entrance that splits off. So they pretty much accorded everything that we had asked from the previous.
Yes, sir. They met the requirements of the site plan, and then we did go through the technical review process. So Public Utilities has signed off on it. Fire Marshal has verified, that our fire trucks fit and that the hydrants are appropriately spaced, and whatnot.
Discussion or questions for Amy on this? Do I hear a motion from anyone?
I'll make a motion to approve.
Second.
How about with the, as staff recommended?
Yes.
Okay. I hear a motion, I hear a second. Staff recommends approval as submitted with the addition of the sidewalk along US 17. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Move on to the rezoning request for the J.H. Bax tract.
The next in our packet tonight is a rezoning request for property along J.H. Batts Road. On your screen here, you can see it highlighted in yellow. I just want to go ahead and explain that we are looking at the bottom half of that piece. We are not looking at the top half. For whatever reason in Pender County GIS, even though they're shown as two separate parcels, they have the same parcel identification number. So if you click on it, the whole site comes up. So we are only looking at the bottom half for tonight. We are not looking at what would be the northern side on that site plan. So Jesse Zimmer is requesting the approval of a conditional district use zoning map amendment to rezone the southeast portion of the 29.08 acre tract of land from RA, which is rural agriculture, to conditional district mixed use. The subject property is located along J.H. Batts Road. I've provided the PIN number in case y'all want to look at it. It's divided by J.H. Batts Road, creating those two individual properties that we discussed. We are only looking at the 20.22 acres. The remaining 8.87 roughly acres located on the northwest part is not a part of this. The applicant is requesting the rezoning. A site plan showing the proposed multifamily development has been provided for your review. The site plan has not completed final engineering. However, it is representative of the final design. If approved, the site plan would have to adhere to all requirements of the mixed-use zoning district and general requirements of the site plan and limit the number of residential units to 99 units. The applicant would be responsible for meeting all local, state, and federal regulations. TRC, the planning board, and the town council would review the engineered site plan before final approval was issued. The intent of the rural agriculture district is established as a district in which the principal use of land is for low-density, single-family residential purposes. The regulations of this district encourage rural farming activities and the preservation of open space. It's designed to promote urban low-density residential development, not requiring urban services while maintaining prime farmland and a rural lifestyle. So you have in your packet a list of the uses that are allowed in rural agriculture by right, and then you have a list that is requires a special use permit. The intent of the mixed-use general commercial district is to provide and protect areas suitable for a mixture of uses, providing retail goods, services, lodging, tour services, entertainment, and single-family dwellings. Its regulations are designed to encourage the formation of continuity among commercial uses located along the town's major roads and ensure adequate and properly designed methods of ingress and egress to commercial properties while providing for safe and adequate traffic flow along these major roads. You will note that I did not put in all of the allowable uses for mixed use because we are only asking for one use with this conditional district, which would be the dwelling residential townhomes. So if approved tonight, that would be the only thing that could go there. It couldn't be any of the other uses that are in our general mixed use. The subject property has direct access to J.H. Batts Road. Secondary access will be provided as part of the site plan. The site plan will provide a stub-out access. I've provided the PIN number, but basically, that is the property on the sound side of Sea Oaks. So just on the other side of the water tower going towards the island, that parcel there would have stub out so that when it develops, there would be an access to that. And then the applicant would also propose a connection and easement to the existing Aldrich Lane. Access to Aldrich Lane would be via a gravel road connection and would not be a built road. The applicant has not provided a trip generation study. If approved, a TIA may be required as a part of the site plan submittal process, and this document would be used to determine the need for any roadway improvements along J.H. Batts Road, such as a turn lane. The site will receive water and sewer from the town of Surf City. Approval of this rezoning request will not place the applicant on the sewer wait list. A site-specific plan will need to be submitted and approved by the town council prior to being placed on the wait list. The Pender County GIS environmental layer shows the potential of wetland areas on the site. The applicant has completed a wetland study and is working with the agencies to finalize this document. You will note through here the next graphic in your packet is the zoning map, and it shows the different zoning surrounding this piece of property. You will notice that on the NC 50 side, it butts up to C3, which is our most commercial district in town, and then on the opposite side is R5M, which is manufactured home parks or campgrounds. And then along Little Kinston is MHS, which is manufactured home subdivision, which means it is single-family homes with either stick-built, modular, or manufactured homes placed in it. The Town of Surf City 2022 Land Use Plan provides Chapter 5, the Land Use and Growth Management, as well as Map 5-3, Future Land Use Map. The land use map is used to guide rezoning request and in the assignment of zoning during the annexation process. If the proposed rezoning request is approved, the future land use map would automatically be updated with the new zoning. If the request is denied, the map would stay the same. In this particular case, the use that is being requested matches the existing land use plan. So the existing is neighborhood mixed use for this area, and the townhomes fall within that neighborhood mixed use. So I know a lot of times we talk about the land use map classifications and the districts and how they fit within it. So for this neighborhood mixed use, the limited uses with this redistricting does fit within that neighborhood mixed use designation. So we go on to kind of read through what that neighborhood mixed use designation is. And then the policies that support this are Objective 5.1, which is to maintain the small town family-friendly atmosphere at Surf City by encouraging low density residential development, compatible business establishments, and preserved natural resource areas and parks and recreational facilities. So with this proposal, it keeps a lot of natural area. It uses the clustering of the townhomes closer together to allow for more natural area to remain on the site. And then the policies that do not support it is just the managed growth. The town supports managing growth and development based on compatibility with town goals, the capacity of the environment, densities allowable in sensitive areas, the availability of existing and planned support facilities and services, and sufficient infrastructure. As we know, congestion has become an issue within the town. NCDOT currently has 2 funded projects in the vicinity to help alleviate congestion. However, neither project directly impacts J.H. Batch Road or this property. Infrastructure needs, the town currently has a sewer capacity wait list and is unable to provide sewer. This request could increase the amount of additional sewer needed to be provided by the town by decreasing the required lot size. However, this rezoning and then getting the site plan is what would get you in line for that additional sewer. So per the town ordinance, you will need to have a consistency statement, either of why you want to approve this or why you don't. The town has recommended 4 conditions to be added if we approve this tonight, and those conditions include providing a connection to the property identified on Pender County GIS as 4235-44-3096-000, which is that property adjacent to Sea Oaks, and then to provide a connection to Aldrich Lane as shown on the site plan. Provide pedestrian access to the town property identified on Pender GIS as 4235-43-8225-0000. That is the property right before you get to the Methodist Church if you're going towards the island. And then that the residential units shall not exceed 99 units. So on your site plan, if you counted them, there's 112. We have worked through that number. 99 is the number. The applicant proposes to remove 14 of the townhomes and replace with garage units so that individuals in there could, if they wanted to, have a kind of a garage or a storage area within their development. So there would be 99 units or less and up to 14 garage units. So there is a consistency statement for either approving or denial. If you have any questions about the site plan or the conditional district process, I'd be happy to answer them. You can see that the project shows a collector road, limiting the number of accesses to that road. It shows a multi-use path coming through there, and then the connections will be modified slightly to make the connection to the property, or to build to the property line adjacent to the property by the water tower, and also to the property adjacent to the church. However, there was no need to redraw the site plan since we were going to have that as conditions until we get through the process and start doing the engineering if approved.
Amy, what's the vacant property at the north and south end of that plot?
On the, across the road, across from J.H. Batts?
Between, go back to site plan, between J.B. Batts and the Spine Road running down the middle of the site, and the same on the other end.
So we have room for ponds in there, so there's a vacant area left for ponds. There are some wetlands towards the back of the property, and then the back of the property does not quite reach Little Kinston. That's Dexter Blizzard owns that piece of property on the end of it, so you'll still have that property, and then there's just some area that will be left wooded between the end there and the and Mr. Blizzard's property. And then you'll have a buffer of trees or landscape vegetation between the roadway and the existing mobile home, manufactured home park.
What's the wait time right now for the sewage if approved?
Long time.
Mr. Price would be happy to come up here and answer that question.
The first project, dropping 240,000 gallons a day, will be completed by the end of September. Unfortunately, unless this is the next plan approval, they will not be on that wait list. Next project after that is 3 to 5 years out.
So if this gets approved now for the next council meeting, then it would be on the new, the present one, or after 3 to 5?
This would get the conditional district rezoning, and then once the rezoning, it would, I'm assuming, immediately be submitted for TRC review, and then it would come back for site plan approval. So you're still a couple of months before we would actually get site plan approval for this project.
But you just passed on a site plan that would finish us off, which is a spiller track for this current project that we're working on.
So, Amy, do you know how many units are in that, on that James Avenue? One next,
Opposite side of the road?
yeah, do you, by chance, like, how many were on?
Not off the top of my head. I can look real quick, though.
I would think.
Are there any plans? I know we talked about, Waterside creating a, like a bike and pedestrian path from, on J.H. Batts to the community center as part of their sidewalk. Just counting,
60-ish.
60-ish.
Does that sound right? I'm 60 plus.
60 plus.
And the for the multi-use path, there's a lot of fun things going on with that right now. So Waterside was on the hook to do sidewalk from the intersection of Belt Road, not Belt Road, of their main intersection all the way down to the community center. We are going to work with them to see if there's an opportunity to upgrade that to a multi-use path with the town, you know, working on that. We also have recently adopted the multi-use path map with the town that shows, you know, the spine with different spurs and whatnot. And we are also currently working on the design of the multi-use path phase 1, which is out on 210 and will connect Magnolia Reserve, Saltwater Landing, Turtle Creek, and all of that into town. And part of the R5900 project will build a section of multi-use path that starts at the fire department and turns that sidewalk into multi-use path, comes down to the roundabout at Tortuga, going down the new Coretta Drive, and then we'll come out on Charlie Medlin. So there are different portions that are going in right now that would eventually connect. And at some point, the town would look to build a connection from this development to the road through our property off of 50. That one would be further down the road because we're trying to start with areas that impact more people, which is why we're starting on the one on 210. See a lot of kids out there riding down the road.
Yes.
So that seems to be one of our most dangerous places in town, so we're trying to start there.
Any further questions for Ms. Kimes or any discussion? If you want, you can come up here and introduce yourself. Yeah, just introduce yourself.
Stand still? Okay.
So two quick things. The only thing that
Just real quick, just introduce yourself.
Oh, Jesse Zimmer.
Yeah, okay.
So the only thing that is kind of interesting is the connection for the Aldridge. It's a gravel road. I know she has that as a stipulation or a condition. It's the only one that I don't have any control over since I don't own that property. It's about 300 feet of another person's property. So that's the only condition that I would prefer to leave out. I will do a connection to the town. I will do a connection to Sea Oaks. But for me to be able to say that I have to have a connection on someone else's property makes it rather difficult.
That's not a city street.
It's a city street, but it doesn't access all the way from, there's like a pump station, and it doesn't, I don't even think it's actually a city street. According to your map, it's not a city street yet.
If I may, easement's going to be obtained either way for interconnectivity as per the subdivision ordinance to interconnect water and sewer on that road anyway. So the point of the easement is going to be there either way. The gravel road is just on top of the easement that you already need.
Well, we could do, if I'm correct, we could do a pump station,
And at
or
Smithfield,
we could go to Little Kingston, correct?
That's correct.
If we did have, if we're going to be on this wait list where we're going to get a little extra time, I could either buy a property that could allow us to do that subsurface so that we wouldn't have to have an easement, but we'd still be able to, or we'd be able to pump it back up.
So would you be?
I want to do it.
Would you be willing to say if an easement can be obtained,
Yes.
this
Yes.
connection would be made?
100%. I can't have a project rely on someone else's property to say yes or no. And to let you know, for the density, under an RA, it's currently 40%. We're at this particular project, roofed houses would be about 15%, is what our, so it's way low in the density.
Shame it's gotta be because the land is strip development like this. It's more like, tenement housing.
One more time.
Just from the plot that we're looking at, it's just a shotgun road there with tons of housing on it.
But the one nice thing about it, though, is that road, it will be able to provide some access to the other, developments that do develop in the front.
It's the shape of the property.
Yeah, I know. And then we'll see after this, we do own the property, the 9 acres on the top, that is a major part of it touches a lot of the DOT stuff that is coming along. So this is just one step of the process. I know it might be a little bit for development, but we'll one step at a time. All right, thank you.
So, Amy, would the town recommend rewording that, conditions of the rezoning, or is that?
The town would really like to see that connection, however,
Can you say what you said again, David? You're saying he has to have it regardless, or?
No, upon our original discussions, the lift station, I've been working with Mr. Zimmer's engineer, and the lift station is a relatively new idea. It's a very expensive idea, but it will work technically. But per our original discussions, they were looking to go ahead and buy a utility easement or acquire a utility easement from that landowner in order to use our existing infrastructure and to tie into water and sewer for interconnectivity, which is required by our ordinance. If it's not possible, he is right, we cannot make him do that. But if he's going to tie in with our water and sewer and acquire the easement anyways, it makes sense to go ahead and build that road since you already have the easement.
so I think providing a connection to Aldrich Lane, as long as it can be obtained from the property owner, would be okay with the town.
Mr. Zimmer, have you had negotiation with that property owner about this?
Not to this point. We had just general conversation. They were looking for some additional sewer capacity, so we've talked with the town a little bit for trying to offset that, and just brief conversations, nothing solid. It would be the preferable way. It's just, that's all I'm saying is, if for any reason that we're unable to obtain that one little part, that we can have different systems that meet David's requirements. I mean, it's the preferable way, but that doesn't say that it will always be the case.
So the town, if it comes to it, will sit down and explain that maybe the way some things were done in the past, they cannot be done currently, and that Mr. Zimmer cannot provide for him that sewer capacity as a trade-off, and that there are some other ways that we would need to go about things in a different manner than maybe some of the ways we did things in the past. And that would help Mr. Zimmer in this case if we explain why he can't give him what he's asking for.
Really, we're looking for a utility and access easement.
Yes, sir.
It's a gravel access. So it's the same thing that would be there currently, it just would finish. It'd make it all the rest of the way.
It would just be the extension of that, which if the landowner decided to develop that, it would give him access to 99 rooftops to come visit whatever he developed there as well.
It's a benefit, it's a positive. It's just, I just can't rely 100% on it.
Is there any alternatives?
So the other alternatives for access would be, yes, there'll be another development over by Sea Oaks, by the water tower. So you'll be able to access 5210 from there, and then also the town will have 2 stub outs that will create an opportunity.
It needs to have two accesses, doesn't it?
So the session law change, the fire code was 30 homes had to have a secondary access. However, session law changed that to 100 homes. The fire code will be updated to recognize that at the new building and fire code come out this year in January. And they will show that. We did call the state fire marshal to make sure that was correct, that the 100 homes based on session law, even though the fire code had not been updated, was correct. And we were told that it was 100 homes, which is why 99 is in here as the maximum amount, because if he goes above 99, then we have to look at that secondary fire access, which would be a full road, not a gravel road.
There is a full road that's by the water tower, but it's just so close to the front entrance. We're just trying to create a solution that's good for the community and for the town.
Because theoretically, if something happened in the neighborhood, people could get out that gravel drive. It wouldn't be a daily enter-exit, which would be nice, but during an emergency, they would be able to enter and exit. And then in talking with Mr. Price, we would like to amend to provide a connection to Aldrich Lane, if allowable with the adjacent property owner. Any alternative sewer and water method would have to be approved by the town. Correct? And the roadway. So staff would work with
But we
Mr. Zimmer.
wouldn't need a roadway if we went out the back of Little Kingston. So let's say I was able to obtain a 15-foot easement for that property. Even though it's real wet, we'd have to do it without a road. So I understand you want a road, but that backside, if it became an option, it would be underground and there wouldn't be any access on the top due to the bottom part of the property has a bunch of wetlands. So there's not much you can do on the backside.
So the fire code has changed from 30 to 100. So fire cannot make that requirement. If the planning board or council did not felt that having a secondary access was necessary, no matter what the fire code said, then if we could not come to an agreement on that, that would be a reason for a vote of denial from the planning board.
And to meet that, we do have access. We would stub out to Sea Oaks. That is a city road. And we would work with the landowner. It's currently, between the two properties, is held by an HOA. It's the same people that are building just a little bit further down, and it's also going to become a city road. So I could connect to a city road currently.
The new road may not be a city road. The town would have to take it over. So we can't assume that it would be.
The first one is a city road.
Sea Oaks meet the requirements for that amount of through traffic? I've worked with some of those flex spaces in there, and that's tight going through there. It seems like having 99 homes using that as access would be very dangerous, the way it's currently set up.
So it's also close to the Edgewater JH bat signal, so we would prefer to get that traffic, away from that signal, so that you don't have that many people coming out in and out right at a signal if they were utilizing it.
Yeah, I mean, I understand where you're coming from, Mr. Zimmer. I also understand where the town's coming from, and even though maybe the session has changed it to 100, we've always operated, and our land use has always operated under connectivity and having a second when you have something this big. And I know you said you can do it through CS, but that provides it. It's pretty much like you said, right up at the top. So, and this is a conditional rezoning. So, I do think that it's our duty, I feel like it's our duty to make sure that there's a second exit on here or a second entrance on here, and for us to sit there and rezone it without, I understand, but I think it needs to have that, and we can't just, it is a condition, we can put that on there, but I don't think we can just take a word that you're gonna do something on there, or you can do the COs at the time. I just think we need something firm that's gonna have a second entrance that the town or that we approve on that site. Whether it should come back to us to get the project approved on there, as a second access, but right now, I think some concerns have been voiced about the COs, and I think that we do need some guarantee that there's gonna be a second, access onto that property with that many homes on there. So,
The second access point, if it does go through COs, how many homes does that go through?
0.
0?
It's all commercial.
Okay.
And it's purely a secondary access. It's nothing
primary.
that would be your primary. Everything on the commercial side is very wet, so it's hard to get out that side. Yeah.
So COs, is that something that you would see as a high possibility?
Oaks and the second Oaks will be built before, we're talking 3 years before sewer capacity. So whether that's a street road or not, it'll definitely also be another access. And then if the town ever does anything, that's another access. So we're trying to do our best we can to provide access, even though it's not a requirement, it's a positive. But we just don't own that land, and we just can't tell someone what to do with it. So we're just using what's currently there.
Jesse, is there a way you feel comfortable wording that?
On what part?
The connection to Aldridge that shows you'll make your best effort to get that.
Well, that's just a gravel road, so I just don't think that's what they're looking for also as safety. Because if you're looking at a gravel road that's 10 feet wide, we can go to a road that's a city street for emergency access 3 different times, whether the town gets built or the other one that's not a street, because Aldridge is not a street, a city street.
However, at the end of Sea Oaks, the town owns a little bit of the property and the HOA, so you still would be holding to someone else. And the other property is not built yet, so you're still, all of these connections are holding to someone else.
And on the conditional rezoning, I would have to be able to do that before I'd get permitted, correct?
Yes, so you'd have to make both of those connections prior to.
One of the I'd have to stub out and make at least one of the connections, correct?
Well, you said 2, that's why I'm asking.
One connection, but we would stub out to both the town, just in case that was ever developed. We'd stub out to the second Sea Oaks, if that's ever developed, and then we'd make connection if that's what we wanted to do on the first Sea Oaks. Which, the second Sea Oaks, I think, is gonna be an EMS center, so it's probably gonna be a,
First Sea Oaks is where they're currently putting the EMS building.
my mistake, I thought it was a second, but yeah.
I currently have a site plan for the first building, for the first road.
So I know that it's gonna be a decent road if you're gonna have EMS coming out of the second Sea Oaks area, so.
would you feel comfortable, since this is a conditional zoning, that, you would provide a connection? We could list them to Aldrich, COs, or any of the 3 that you mentioned, but they would have to be one of those before the project could go.
Oh, yeah, we'll have to make a connection, yeah.
That's what I mean, it's a conditional, so if we
Yeah.
could word it that.
So instead of provide a connection to the property identified, you would say provide a connection to the property identified as Pender GIS or to Aldrich Lane, and then to provide the pedestrian access to the town property identified as.
I think that would be more comfortable as far as.
I'm okay with- yeah,
in
I
order-
think we're gonna make that connection. I know those guys that are doing both those projects, and yeah, I think it's safe. Safety is always a concern for everyone.
I just don't think we can go on think. We kind of have to make sure that that one of those is going to be going forward. That's what I would feel comfortable doing on there.
Yeah, it's just, this is kind of the first step, and then, we're still 3 years away, and so whenever you would do that, it would have to be a condition that says you will make the connection.
Yeah, that's what- yeah, that's- yeah.
I got no problem with that.
I think that's.
Because it's possible we could connect, there's also a possibility to use the church over there. They need some capacity for some different ways, but yes, there could be even if we went through a parking lot or whatnot, we would provide a secondary access.
I think that would make it. And Amy, would you be able to maybe word that for us on that conditions of the rezoning, the best way to?
So it sounds like you are going to say provide a connection to the property identified on Pender GIS as 423-443-096-0000, which is the adjacent to Sea Oaks property, or provide a connection to Aldrich Lane for a vehicular connection.
Like that and/or,
And/or?
because he needs the connection for the sewer.
So provide a vehicular connection to the property identified on Pender GIS as 42, I'm not going to read it again, and/or provide a connection to Aldridge Lane, and then provide pedestrian access to the town property identified on Pender GIS, and then residential units shall not exceed 99 units.
Does that sound, okay, and that's, as far as the conditions of rezoning, that's something that the town would be comfortable with, as far as recommendation goes wise in there. All right, any further discussion? Any questions? Anybody?
Make a motion to approve based on the amendment for the second access.
Second.
So, we have a motion to approve this conditional rezoning on the conditions of rezoning, provided a connection on the property identified as Pender, JS, and as Amy said, and/or Aldrich, and/or, but there will sound, COs, and provided pedestrian access to the town property identified as Pender, GIS, 435-438-225-000, and residential units shall not exceed 99 units. So as the conditions. All those in favor?
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. All right, carries.
Thank
Thanks.
you.
All right. Thanks, David.
All right, here's,
Zoning ordinance adoption.
So I really don't have a lot to say tonight.
Okay.
We've been working on this for a year. We've had a few different versions. I've sent it out. Y'all have had the opportunity to read it. We've had 2 meetings with the consultant that the planning board has been at, and where y'all have, talked through the process and what you would like to see changed. We had one in December, and then we had a joint meeting with council back in May, where we went through that again. I had bi-weekly meetings with the consultant for about a year, going through it and reading through it, and then we provided them a large set of comments back a couple months ago. They've gotten that to us. It was provided to y'all, I think, the end of August. So tonight, we're asking for a recommendation to move forward with it. The only public comment that I have gotten came in yesterday or this week. And I do not have an issue with it, but I do want to run it by you first, as it was not in your packet. In the current ordinance, the building height for dry dock storage, for the stack storage, is 48 feet with a special use permit allowing it up to 60 feet in the Camo Urban Waterfront area. The new ordinance, the revised ordinance, dropped that down to 40 feet, and then you could get a conditional district. We are trying to get away from special use permits as much as possible and go with the conditional districts. So it allowed for the conditional district to raise that height. So we were asked if we could have the standard raised back to the existing 48 feet. I don't have an issue with that, and then we would keep the conditional district for an allowance of up to 60 feet.
For the same, basically.
Just go from a special use permit to conditional district, yes, sir. So that's the only change that I have received a request for. And then if you have,
why does that district allow a special use of 60 feet?
why?
Yeah, I think I know why, but you tell me.
You tell me, because you were here when that decision was made.
Because Lionel Yao wanted to put a high-rise down there, is why I think it was.
The current ordinance allows for, in the Cama Urban Waterfront area, which is basically the area from our old PD back around, it allows for it. It has allowed for it in the 5 years I've been here, so I am not sure. Maybe Steve, you remember more about it.
Mr. Ward's pretty correct on that.
If that is something you would like to continue,
I
then
don't see any reason to continue it myself in that limited area that's pretty well built out now.
As far as for, and not specifically talking to like a dry dock or,
So it's anything. So
Anything.
on the commercial, on the Kama Urban Waterfront, you can get a special use permit for anything for 60 foot. So like beachfront cannot because it's not the Kama Urban Waterfront. Between
understand.
North Topsail and North New River cannot because it's not the Kama Urban Waterfront. It is only those properties touching the water back there that would be able to get that 60-foot height.
I think I agree with Mr. Ward that it should just be 48 feet. I don't think there needs to be, I think that should be the limit, just about everything else. Anybody else?
I can't see a special use permit for 60-foot high enclosed dock storage for a boat. That'd be a hell of a forklift.
How big is the current dry stack, do you know?
I think it's close.
Close to 60? Because I mean, it's what, at least 4 rows up?
Because there was a special use permit for that property back in the 2000 timeframe. I'd have to look back. It expired. They did extensions for a while, and it expired 10 years or so ago. So they do not have an active special use permit that would allow them.
I think it was 60 when we did it way back.
There's
And then,
gonna
and they
be-
had a 5-year extension, or a 3-year, 5-year extension, and they did it a couple times, but then they failed to come back in when it ran out again.
It was going to be like a hotel and restaurants
Yep.
and it was
Condominiums.
Condominiums, yeah, it was
the
gonna
renderings
sell
were
for $1 million a unit too.
the renderings were pretty.
So right now, by leaving it, it would stay at 40 feet, and then they could get a special use up to 48 if we left it the way it is?
Keep it at 48.
No, I mean,
Right
we're,
now-
we're looking to change it back to the old ways of 48 to 60.
No,
But the
no,
new
keep it
ways,
at, no, keep it at 48, get rid of the 60. No, just eliminate the 60.
Yeah, so we're looking at, so the way that it reads now, dry stack storage in excess of 40 feet in height must be approved through a conditional rezoning process. So, what the board is recommending is that instead of doing 40 feet, we just do the flat 48 feet, and there is no longer the allowance of 60-foot buildings along our waterfront.
Everything in town be 48 foot.
yeah.
Because the current one is 48 to 60. The new one was
That's from
40.
having to think.
Absolutely.
All right, any other discussion on anybody? We can move on. Any updates for us, Amy, on anything else?
Are you recommending
Oh.
to move this to council for
Oh,
approval?
yeah, sorry. Recommend, I didn't know, I thought it was informal here. I thought you were just writing it down.
Yes,
Yes,
so-
I recommend that we,
So,
can I get a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Those in favor?
Aye.
All right.
we will have a public hearing at the October 1st council meeting for the adoption of this, as well as the adoption to the changes of the zoning map. And that zoning map was also shown during
New zones,
the news, the basic new zones are listed in there, but it's,
I mean, it'll be on the map.
yes, sir. All right, and our updates for tonight are as follows. So I'm just going to run through the status of all of the projects that I have open right now. The preliminary Pender EMS building, they are waiting for their final architecture, and they will be ready to do their complete TRC review. We did a sketch plan review with them a while back. Evolve TRC, y'all talked about that tonight. It'll be on the council work session on the 1st. The restaurant retail on the corner of Edgewater will be at the September TRC meeting. They have submitted their full plans. Same for the Valvoline site plan, which is the oil change by Watkins. The multi-tenant retail building at 13971 NC 50, which is where the roll-up storage sign is. I have met with them again and looked at a concept that they changed based on our initial concept plans. We are waiting for the final on that. Sunrise, Daybreak, Sunset Burgers. We received a plan for that. We are waiting for additional on that. Magnolia Reserve 7A, 7B final plat will be on the October council work session and the November consent agenda. The Starbucks, which is right out here in front of Publix, is under TRC review. They resubmitted renderings, and we are looking at those. The Tayfiler Conditional District, which y'all heard in August, because of the date, it wasn't able to make the September council meeting because of advertisement. It'll be on the October 1st meeting. Conditional district change for Applewood Trace will be October TRC with an anticipated November planning board and council, December council. The advanced auto parts out in front of Harris Teeter has almost finished TRC review. We are waiting on revised architectural plans that don't look quite as much like an advanced auto and a little bit more like Town of Surf City. Take 5 oil change, we have completed the sketch plan review and are waiting for the TRC. The JH Batts development, we discussed the conditional district tonight. Site plan for topsoil tide storage will be on September TRC. Mr. Wellman is proposing a strip mall similar to his existing one on the opposite side of the road where he has been clearing. That will be on the September TRC. Mr. Afifi is proposing storage behind his existing A&A Builders building. That will be on September TRC. The Sniff Davis property that we talked about last month is coming back with a conditional use. It will be at September TRC. And then the floodplain maps, the updated maps, we received our letter from FEMA. FEMA will adopt the preliminary maps on January 17th. So we will talk about the FEMA maps at the work session this month with a public hearing at the council meeting on October 1st for adoption of those maps. If we do not adopt the maps, we are politely removed from the flood insurance program and will no longer be able to participate. So I anticipate that we'll adopt the maps so that we can.
With the provision of raising the insurance limit.
We'll be looking at those maps. So if anybody has any questions about that, we are happy to answer them. You can go to NCFRIS, which is NCFRIS, if you Google it, and click on preliminary, and it'll show you what your insurance or what your new zone and elevation will be. We will also, in case y'all aren't here, discuss LIMWA, which is the limited wave action area that has been added to these maps and were not previously there. We have a very small section of LIMWA, which is shown on the map, and that changes your AE zones to an AE coastal zone, and that means that you have to build to VE standards. That is a very small area that was previously VE.
You have to build a what standard?
VE standards, so breakaway walls.
Oh,
It's a very small area that was previously VE. So they didn't really get anything.
downside.
It is, it's, there's a little bit of it on Atkinson and kind of out onto Roland, and then there's like a very thin line on the mainland. But there is none on the island. And those are my updates for tonight. If you have any questions, I'd be happy to answer them.
Thank you, Amy.
Mhm.
Any
I'll
further
so moved.
discussion? Okay, we'll make a motion. Have a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor? All those opposed? All right, thank you.